Hey everyone, welcome back. So today we're diving into a really fascinating shift in how we interact, collaborate, and ultimately rely on each other across modern networks. We are talking about the evolution of decentralized trust, and more specifically, this massive shift towards treating reputation as actual load-bearing infrastructure. Look, if you've ever spent time in a decentralized ecosystem and found yourself wondering, how do we actually know who to trust when there's literally no boss in charge? Well, then this explainer is exactly for you. We're going to break down how our entire concept of digital trust is evolving right before our eyes, moving away from these meaningless digital stickers and towards something incredibly functional. Okay, so let's kick things off with a slightly provocative question. What does a digital badge actually do? Seriously, think about all those colorful little icons and the totally arbitrary scores we see scattered across almost every online profile today. We collect them, we show them off, but if we really stop and think about it for a second, what is their actual function? Do they actually protect us? Do they fundamentally change the environment we're operating in? Well, that brings us to the first part of our breakdown, the problem with badges and what we call the illusion of trust. See, right now, in a lot of decentralized networks, reputation is treated as, well, basically just surface level decoration. It's just a badge sitting next to a user's name or maybe a static score hovering on a profile page. It's a metric that people might briefly glance at, sure, but it's something they very rarely actually depend on when making a real critical decision. It's kind of like getting a gold star on a math test. It looks really nice, but it absolutely doesn't give you the power to go ahead and teach the class. It's designed to give us this warm, fuzzy feeling that the system is organized and that we somehow know who the good actors are. But we really need to recognize this for what it is. It's pure ornamentation that totally lacks any real functional substance. And here is the real kicker. That surface-level decoration rarely changes how the system actually behaves. That is exactly where the illusion just completely breaks down. Let's say a user with a shiny gold badge and a massive score acts carelessly, but the system still processes their input the exact same way it processes the input of a brand new, totally unproven user. If that happens, then that badge is practically meaningless. These decorative metrics completely fail to alter the underlying dynamics of the system itself. Like I said, they are just paint on a wall. So we desperately need a paradigm shift. We need to move to reputation as infrastructure. There's a brilliant quote from our source material that perfectly captures this whole concept. Because reputation only matters when it affects outcomes. Just let that sink in for a second. It doesn't matter when it's displayed. It doesn't matter when it looks pretty on a dashboard. It literally only matters when it functionally alters the result of an interaction. Mere display is meaningless. Functional impact is absolutely everything. We're basically looking at a massive central dichotomy here. On one side, we've got surface-level decoration. These are the static metrics we just talked about that get a quick glance but do absolutely nothing to change behavior. On the other side, we have actionable infrastructure. This is where reputation actively and automatically shapes exactly how the system responds to a participant. We are talking about the critical leap from useless ornamentation to dynamic, responsive infrastructure. It is a total game changer. To see what this actually looks like out in the wild, we can look at a case study from the text. The platform Codatta treats reputation as infrastructure, not ornamentation. They are a prime example of building a framework where reputation is deeply embedded right into the very foundation of the network. In a model like this, your reputation isn't an afterthought. It's not some nice-to-have visual perk. It serves as the active, load-bearing architecture of the system itself. All right, let's move on to changing system behavior and look at the actual mechanics of real reputation. So how does an infrastructure approach actually rewrite the rules? Well, in Codatta's case, there are 4 major impacts. First, it dictates what data gets higher trust weight. If you have a strong reputation, your data inputs literally count for more, period. Second, it determines which contributors influence validation. The system inherently trusts proven actors to verify information. Third, when it's time to make governance decisions, the voices of reliable participants carry a much heavier signal. And finally, it directs where opportunity actually flows inside the network. The system just automatically routes the best tasks, the best rewards, and the best roles to the people who have consistently proven their worth. Reputation is literally rewriting the rules of engagement in real time. And because of those 4 changes, the entire vibe of the network totally shifts. Agents actually begin prioritizing signals based on historical reliability. In this new infrastructure model, agents within the system no longer treat all inputs equally. And honestly, why would they? If you've got one input coming from someone with a deep, mathematically proven history of accuracy, and another coming from a totally unknown source, the system is engineered to prioritize that reliable signal. Which brings us to a massively important realization for anyone participating in these spaces. Contributors are no longer interchangeable. For the longest time, decentralized systems treated users like faceless, identical cogs in a machine. My data was the exact same as your data. But here, a user's consistency becomes economically meaningful. If you consistently provide high-quality input, your reputation grows, your influence expands, and you gain access to all those opportunities we just talked about. Your historical reliability carries genuine, tangible economic weight.
So, what is the ultimate endgame here? That brings us to the future of trust and the concept of this self-stabilizing network.
Basically, we get this continuous, self-stabilizing incentive loop. Let's walk through it. Step 1, strong contributors naturally gain influence over time because their reliable actions are literally baked into the infrastructure. Step 2, because the system dynamically adjusts itself, low quality or careless behavior gradually just loses its weight. The bad actors aren't necessarily getting banned by some angry admin. They're simply being mathematically marginalized by the system itself. Which leads right into step 3. The system stabilizes naturally. Quality behavior is automatically rewarded with influence, while poor behavior is seamlessly penalized. And that leads to arguably the most powerful point of this whole breakdown. The system stabilizes without needing heavy, centralized enforcement. Just think about the implications of that for a second. You don't need a massive team of moderators policing everything. You don't need a central authority handing down punishments or dictating all the rules from the top down. That dynamic loop we just looked at creates an environment that naturally, mathematically regulates itself. So, here is our ultimate takeaway from the source material today. Trust no longer depends on authority. Instead, trust depends on incentives that continuously reinforce quality. It is a fundamental rewiring of how digital societies actually operate. We are trading the fragile, messy trust of central oversight for the robust, anti-fragile trust of aligned incentives and structural reputation. Which leaves us with one final, pretty mind-bending question to chew on. What happens to the internet when trust completely stops requiring a central authority? When our networks become self-stabilizing and real reputation actively shapes our digital reality, the possibilities are absolutely staggering. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible evolution. Keep thinking about how reputation shapes the systems you use every single day, and I will see you in the next explainer.